You know, it was quite ugly at certain points, and I wish that it was all trans people on the panel because that would have been more appropriate and more fitting.
Wow, you're so offensive. You're an offensive person, human being. Yeah.
Okay.
Just so
Well,
you know.
I find a lot of things over here offensive as well.
Oh wow. Yeah, you're disgusting.
And I have to. Trust me, the feeling is more than mutual.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to react to the Jubilee trans debate called Trans Conservatives versus Trans Liberals. It's a total cheat show. It's insane. So it's actually going to be quite funny. But that being said, I want y'all to know that I think conversations like this are important. What I don't think is okay is I feel like they got these certain types of people here to have a very combative, conversation. I don't even know if it's a debate at this point. It's quite disturbing, some of the things that came out of some of these people's voices. And with that said, I don't know, did someone win the debate or not? I'm definitely going to say that the conservatives came with factual information, were much more direct in their delivery, and I feel like the liberals were much more angry, much more divisive, and much more non-factual, which tends to be the case these days. So with that, my friends, I'm super excited to do this along with you, and so here we go.
Conservatives have a basic level understanding of what transness is in the first place. And with all due respect, I do not think any of you are basic, but they use you as the baseline to amplifying this propaganda.
Blossom. You all know I have history with that one. With that being said, I cut that little piece because I'm going to cut little pieces. It's going to be easier for me to sort of pay attention a little bit. I don't want to make this too long and too long and insane. So this first clip that I did, I specifically about, is it a safety concern for trans women in the female restroom? Yes, there most definitely is. And for anyone to deny this, they're denying the whole thing. It is not transphobic to be having this conversation, number one. Number two, Blaire made a great point, as the rest of the conservatives did. There are people who are being disingenuous, who are not trans, who are men pretending that they're women and going into certain spaces and acting out. That is a fact. Those things have been shown. And then you see Blossom going in and acting as if it's fake, and then there we go, throwing in the right-wing card, because either Blossom is all about throwing the right-wing card or the racist card. So that was her first card, and she had to try to throw that into the mix and saying that, the passability thing, well, it is important. That's what real transsexual people do. They work to pass so that they can be a part of society. Yes, we all understand some people might not be able to do that. Guess what? I'm sorry, but it's the reality of being trans. It's not always easy, and it's not always joyful that you keep putting out there. It is a difficult space to live in, and you're acting as if everyone needs to bend over and go to the trans women or the trans men space. That's not going to happen. The question was, is it a safety concern for trans women to use the female restroom? Are you listening to women? They're saying they're uncomfortable with this most of the time. People such as Blaire or Sarah or whoever who pass and look that way are never going to have an issue walking in the restroom. As you notice, we have another trans woman on there who basically said that she was not comfortable using the women's restroom, which I think says a lot about her, and says that she is willing to understand her space and not go into the women's restroom. So Blossom, again, as far as I'm concerned, she gaslights the whole thing, and she gives information specifically about her own opinions and not factually based.
Soldiers, if you have surgeries, they go on profile, which means they can't actually do their job. They can't do PT. If you have bottom surgery, it takes a year. And so as a leader, that person's filling a position of a job of somebody that should be doing it. I don't mind somebody who is actually on hormones going there because there's a lot of people. I mean, people take PTSD medications overseas. They actually take 6 months of medication with them. So a full-out ban I don't necessarily support because I think that everybody in the military, as long as you can do your job, you can go in there and nobody really cares.
So the next question was, I support the transgender military ban. Now, that being said, I didn't know there was actually a ban. Is there a ban? I might now actually go with me on this, because as far as I'm concerned, there's not a ban, because I know actually 5 trans people who are in the military. I know a trans man who just joined the military. So I think that question might be not specifically correct. So with that, I have a nuanced space in that. I think people who are already on hormones, already went through surgery, are already sort of in their space and can pass all the mental health spaces as well as the physical health spaces. Who cares? If you're going to be able to do your job and you're not going to be a burden on the military and you're going to be able to get out there and fight when we need you, go for it, my friend. Never should you be banned. But if there's people just joining the military in order to go through HRT and a transition, I totally disagree with that, because that's not what the military is for. It's not there to help you transition. It is actually there to help us secure our country. So I definitely do not agree that somebody should be joining there to transition, which I see some people doing, because then you're not able to do what you're supposed to be doing there. You're not able to be going through boot camp and doing these things. You're taking medication. You're transitioning. This actually affects your brain, by the way, which we're also not talking about. Things are going to shift for you when you start putting testosterone or you start putting estrogen in your body. How are the other soldiers going to act to you? There are layers of things going on here. And why is it the best place for a trans person to be transitioning? I personally do not think so. And secondly, I think it is okay if a person is already transitioned. You know, again, that question bothers me because I'm not sure if there's an actual ban on it. As I said, I have friends in the military, so.
The vibe is like, I like, as someone who had top surgery and went on hormones, like, it's a very emotionally intense experience. I think in terms of like minors getting surgery, like, the reason why I'm not like no to that is because I feel like maybe someone's like 17 or something. I honestly feel like it is a really intense surgery, but I feel like if somebody's like 17 or like late 16 and like feels like it's right for them, I mean, like, people are really different. I know for me, like, top surgery when I was like 16 would have been like so good, and it would have literally like saved my spinal cord from like binding all the time. That's why I'm like, yeah, like, I feel like in instances like it can make sense.
It's a little bit of a slap in the face for anybody who's seeking transition.
Yeah.
And as somebody who has experienced top surgery and also waited quite a bit of time, a lot of severe damage actually was created to my rib cage that my wife, who is half my size, actually has the same size rib cage in the back as mine. And these are permanent damage to my body because I binded for about 8 years, and there's even still issues that I have with breathing and certain issues that I face that you know, unfortunately, if I had that surgery a lot earlier, I would have a better posture. I'd have a lot of pain that is not within my body that I have to deal with on a daily basis.
Okay, so the question is, should minors be able to get top surgery? I don't think so at all, my own opinion. Now, to comment on these 2 gentlemen that I put here specifically, because I do think it's a trans male topic, they both talked about their own experiences and how if they would have had the opportunity to get top surgery, they would have jumped on it. Everyone says that. Everyone says that. Even detransitioners said that. And then they realized that they made a mistake. So I always have issue with people saying, like, if I could have done it when I was 12, I would have done it, because that's not necessarily true. You're living now in a space where you can say when you were 12, you wish you had the opportunity. And the other guy talking about how he had to bind and how it messed him up, that's horrible, and I'm really sorry that that happened to you. But that being said, maybe you should have got a breast reduction at some point, or maybe you just should have learned how to bind in a way. Now we have ways to bind that shouldn't be doing those kinds of things to you. I binded 30-something years ago, and I never got any issues. I used duct tape. I used ace bandages. And not to say that that's not a horrible thing that happened to you, buddy, but to use that as if it's a blanket statement and to say that, oh, this is what all other kids are going to do and they're going to get bad things happen to them. Well, I'll be honest about this right now. I probably would prefer a kid to sort of maybe bind a little bit and then realize that they don't want to get the top surgery, because once you get that top surgery, there is no turning back. It is actually irreversible.
That the concept of a transgender umbrella is inherently an issue, right? Because when you're talking about something as nuanced, complex, full of social dynamics, medical dynamics, so many things to be considered. When you're talking about a transsexual, you should really be specific, right? And this entire concept actually of transgender is relatively new. Like, it came about in the 70s or 80s through queer theory, when originally it was about transsexuals, which was considered a medical diagnosis, which was a medical process, and it defined something very specific. So for me, when I hear that non-binary, which, if I'm to understand correctly, means that
androgynous.
Right, and it means you identify somewhere in between male and female. That's not what a transsexual.
The people who identify as non-binary, so to speak, when they do so, they typically don't medically transition.
Right.
And when you do so, that at that point, it's a costume.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Like-
it's gender nonconformity, right? And so we,
Because they can
Blaire's
take
saying-
this off. I can't take this off.
Yeah, as Blaire's saying, we look at gender nonconformity, which used to be okay. You can wear what you want. You can present however you want, but it doesn't make you something different. You can't, as Blaire was saying, it comes out of queer theory, which is postmodern neo-Marxism, which means that there's no such thing as absolute truth. They don't believe there's truth, so it kind of erodes the structure of society. And it's actually really regressive in a lot of ways, because you end up getting it to where it's literally based off of stereotypes, which we've tried to for so long get rid of. Like, it's okay to be gender nonconforming male or gender nonconforming female, and that didn't make you non-binary. It didn't make you trans.
I actually talked so much shit about pronouns. Like they, them, all this. I was like, what is this trash? When it first started really coming out, I did not agree with it. I was like, what is this? This is stupid. How can you be a them? Blah, 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 blah.
You were
and I did the
correct.
whole thing, the grammatically. You're interrupting me.
But you were correct. I'm
But
just saying. I'm agreeing with
They
you.
asked you not to comment, and you're commenting. So if you could stop, that would be great.
Well,
Thank
whatever.
you. So anyway, as I was saying, so I changed my mind because I got to spend time around other people who were non-binary, who were non-conforming, and I got to speak with them and I got to experience their life and their experiences. And then I realized myself, I'm like, shit, maybe this is what I've been experiencing my whole life, only because I was exposed to it.
Non-binary should not be considered under the trans umbrella. Exactly. And of course, Blaire and everyone, conservatives, answered specifically with facts. Non-binary is not trans. It's non-binary. I don't understand how we're even having this conversation. So then I put that other part in with Alexander, the non-binary, who gets so mad. If you notice, he's so on edge the whole time. It's insane. And then he's so upset about everything and about Blaire. Total radar on Blaire. It's so crazy. So I always take that as a means that you don't live in reality and that you're always on the defense because you know what you're saying is completely BS and false. And whatever, dude, if you want to be non-binary, you go right ahead. Nobody cares. Actually, probably nobody in that room cared that you were non-binary. But transsexuals do care that you have been put into the same space as us when we have zero in common. Zero. So I find it to be offensive that we have these non-binary people who I have no problem with you being non-binary. You be whatever you need to be, but you're not trans. And so that is where I think it started to get a little bit heated because the non-binary felt out of place, I think, which they should have because they should not even be sitting in that space. And then started getting their feathers ruffled and getting very pissed off at Blaire because Blaire continually was spitting facts. Sorry, but that's the reality of it all. So that was quite funny to me to watch people just get their panties in a wad and like, Leah, shut up. You're not supposed to say anything.
I was over 18 when I started my hormones, but I had a 20-minute appointment, and just like you, I walked in and out with an estrogen prescription. Insane. I wasn't test
I
you
didn't
for my
have to
levels.
see a therapist first.
No.
I had no letter.
And you were a child.
I was a
That's
child.
crazy.
I was
So,
15 years
and that
old.
is a very,
in
very
one of the most
common-
conservative states in the country. So if that's what's going on
Wow.
in Georgia,
Wow.
imagine what's going on everywhere else.
California, hello.
Yeah, when I went for my initial appointment, I literally helped my doctor find gender dysphoria on his chart and mark it for me.
That's insane.
And I walked out with my prescription.
And
But I think to negate, medical service to somebody who needs it, who it might be life or death for, just because you feel some type of way about it, isn't right. Like, why do you care what, little Timothy or Sally are doing or whatever? Like, why do you personally care what?
Well, Timothy and
Well, they're
Sally
children,
are 8 and 12. So.
Are doctors manipulating trans healthcare? 100%. Some doctors, some people in the pharmaceutical business, there is a definite manipulation going on. I would not say all doctors, just like you can't make a blanket statement about everything. You can't do that. But there are most definitely bad players in this game who are doing it through coercion and manipulation, and as well, again, the non-binary literally went off topic and was just going off about how we're going to stop other people from having it. That wasn't the question. The question was if doctors are manipulating, and you, the non-binary, went off saying that how dare we stop other people from getting the medication they need and what they need. But who's talking? We're not talking about that right now, and no one's doing that. What we're trying to do is actually make it better. If you listened to Blaire, and if you listen to Andrew, he's going to tell you that they both, she and he, they're going to tell you that they both got hormones without hardly any pushback, if any. They just walked in, got their hormones, and walked away. We cannot be having a system like that. There are too many people who are getting hurt. That feels like bad players to me. That feels that you're not taking it slow for these people in order to make sure that they're making the right choice. So that's really how I feel. I do believe there are bad players in the medical space, and I do believe that we are pushing people into transitioning who should never be transitioning.
Too often we hear, that if we don't affirm our child's, gender identity that's different than their sex, then they're going to commit suicide. We hear this all the time, especially from the detransition community whose parents were told this and it was manipulative. We hear politicians say this all the time when they're trying to, stop bills or pass bills. The problem with that is that's the same line that abusers use.
Nope, there's no statistics, there's no facts on that. There definitely is suicidal ideation in our community, as well as many other communities. We've noticed and we know now that that is completely false and that we have no statistics. I keep saying that because how can you say that when we don't even have that? So that's really a gaslighty question, as well as what Sarah said is so true. It's like we don't have any knowledge of that, number one. Number two, they're manipulating parents by telling them if they don't transition their child, they're going to off themselves. So right there, that just shows me disingenuous stuff coming out of this community. And then the liberals are all talking about how, yeah, they're all going to do it. Well, show us the facts. Show us the receipts, Blossom, who loves to talk about receipts. I want to see it. If you can factually show me that there are hundreds or thousands or even 10 or 15 or 20 kids killing themselves because they don't have the option to transition, then I might change my mind. But that's just, nope, it's not happening. It's not. And what Sarah said is so profound and so like really powerful that I hope you all hear that. I also wanted to add to it this. I was a child, okay? I was a child who struggled with dysphoria. I was not a trans child. I was a child who struggled with dysphoria. Here I am today. I did struggle with lots of thoughts, lots of things, but you know what I did? I got mental health care, and then I made it to the age of 61. So yeah, people do struggle with these thought processes and things, but there are things you can do to help these young people first before you take that medical, irreversible route.
My blackness should not have to pay for your whiteness that
doesn't make
is
sense.
destroying my community.
I'm
because of
destroying your
privilege.
community.
So are you going to tell all of my exes
How are you going to
that?
say that and then that's the end?
I had to add it because it's just Blossom. That's what Blossom does. It's so crazy. What did she even mean by that? Her community? I thought it was our community. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my actual very first reaction video. And I tried to make it not too crazy, but I can't watch that whole thing. Go watch the whole thing. I'll put the link in the description, and then you can go and spend time with yourself and watch it. And so don't forget, like, subscribe, join my channel. All of those things are really helping me to build this channel, and I do very much appreciate it and giving me a voice to have a different opinion in the wild west of trans. It's completely out of control. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.